Tam please welcome back to the show, Gabrielle Bernstein. So good to have you back on.
Pam, it's so good to be with you. It was my last live appearance. I was with you
I
in 2020.
know you were my last live appearance, I think, on our show as well. And I haven't
Isn't
seen
that
you
wild?
since, but it's so good to have you on.
So good to be with you.
Your book, I got it right here, Happy Days. Um, but it's the first chapter, obviously, that was intentional, and you took us to a dark place in your life. You were 24, you're in a car, it's 8 a.m., and you wrote a complete mess after a big night out that ended 30 minutes earlier. You were thinking about the direction of your life and your struggle with drugs and alcohol. Going back to that, and in contrast to the title itself, I mean, this woman at peace here, this title, referencing something happy, and then you take us there almost immediately.
Yeah, I think that the title is a promise of where you're going, but the subtitle is what you're going to experience, which is the guided path from trauma to profound freedom and inner peace. And I love that you opened this conversation with that moment in the car. I want to first just actually take a minute to acknowledge Dave because I'm now 16 years sober. And I think back to that girl in the car, strung out from the night before, going over and over saying, you can get sober and live a life beyond your wildest dreams, or you can stay using and really struggle. And I think about that girl all the time. And I see her in Dave. I see her in other sober brothers and sisters throughout the world. And we all share that common bond of knowing what it's like to be in that darkness. And so I just wanted to make a point to acknowledge him and his 2 years and to just acknowledge any addict that's going through that experience right now.
Your book, this book, takes us to a new place in your life, which was the secret you held on to regarding childhood abuse. And as I understand, you didn't even confide in a therapist on this. This was truly something you were holding on almost alone and suffering with this trauma.
Well, so much so that I actually didn't even remember. And I think this is such a valuable conversation to have here publicly because a lot of people live throughout their lives with a dissociated memory. For me, I didn't know why I was a drug addict or an alcoholic. I didn't understand why I became a workaholic. I didn't understand why I was so controlling until I was 36 years old and in a dream recalled the memory of being sexually abused as a child. And that's a common thing that people don't talk about a lot. So thank you for holding space for this conversation. But we can literally dissociate from a memory, so much so that we can come to it in moments like a dream or moments where we smell a scent or where there's a song playing in the background can trigger us back into the memory. And for me, I was 11 years sober when I remembered this. And the memory really was, as difficult as it was a relief because, Tam, it made me recognize and understand and honor why I had been addicted in the first place. I believe that the root cause of addiction is trauma.
Yeah. And the fact that you even used the word, it came as a relief, right? Because you're right. When people have addictions, when they are experiencing that dark place that you talk about, that you lived in for so long, you wonder why. Why me? Why is this happening? What is it about me, my life, my journey that's led me here? And I do often hear people say exactly what you've said, a childhood trauma, sometimes suppressed childhood trauma that is linked to it.
Most addicts in my life that I know, almost pretty much every addict that I know personally from being in recovery for so many years, they will happily say and safely say that the trauma was the root cause. And why we become addicted? Because we become addicted to run from impermissible shame, impermissible terror and fear from our childhood and from experiences that are too overwhelming to our nervous system. So much so that we need to put out the fire of that shame, of that terror. And we do that with drugs and alcohol and other forms of addiction, sex addiction, love addiction, food addiction, you name it. It's all present when we are trying to numb out and push past these old wounds.